Welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program. I'm Kelsey Kiesling.
And I'm Kendra Cook. The Southwest TV Translator Association underwrites the news, and Dolores County Broadcasting Network provides the support for DCTV.
Here at the News at Noon show, we assemble the best and most interesting news we can find from the area, and Jerry Tope brings you the local weather and related news. Give us a call with news tips or topics you'd like to see covered. The number is 677-4119.
We appreciate that you're watching DCTV. Today's show is live on Monday at noon and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. and again re-aired on Thursday at noon, 2:30 and 8. It's October 3rd, 2016. Here's the news. The Daily Sentinel writes, the shock of the coal industry shut down for our neighbors to the north in Nucla. John Martinez keeps a close eye on the operations of the Nucla station as the coal-fired plant's turbines churn out electricity to the surrounding region. The outlook for his own future and that of tiny Nucla and nearby communities is a lot less clear, however, following Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association's recent announcement of a regional haze agreement under which it would shut down the 100-megawatt plant by the end of 2022. Also to be closed would be Tri-State's nearby New Horizon mine, which supplies the western Montrose County plant. The local job options could be pretty limited in far western Montrose County once 2 of its major employees closed their doors, eliminating what are currently 55 jobs at the plant and 28 at the mine. Nobody's going to be free from the impact of that shutdown, said Breck Richards, a Nucla native whose family owns Tri-Park Corporation, a Nucla trucking company that hauls and buries coal ash from the mine. It's a lot like it was when Union Carbide shut down in the early 80s. It will devastate the area for quite a while. Union Carbide's shutdown of its uranium mill northwest of Nucla left behind little more than a roadside sign along Colorado Highway 141 to explain the history of what had been the community of Uravan. But people like Nucla Mayor Donna Morris are already hard at work on ways to avoid a similar fate for this town of fewer than 700 people. Efforts already have been ongoing for years to bring in new business, and it helps that, according to Morris, a lot of people are determined to stay there. The Nucla closings are part of a broader agreement under which one of 3 generating units at the Craig Station coal-fired plant near Craig would be closed by the end of 2025. That station is operated by Tri-State and owned by utilities including Tri-State, Xcel Energy, Pacificor, Platte River Power Authority, and the Salt River Project. While the 427-megawatt Unit 1 would be closed, 2 other units in what is currently a 1,300-megawatt plant would continue to operate. Craig's Unit 1 and the Nucla station also would be subject to stricter emissions starting in 2020. The agreement was reached recently with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, US EPA, Wild Earth Guardians, and the National Parks Conservation Association, and would revise what's called the Colorado Visibility and Regional Haze State Implementation Plan. It's subject to EPA and state review, including by the Colorado Air Quality Control Commission and the state legislature. The agreement modifies an earlier legal settlement with Wild Earth Guardians and the National Parks Conservation Association, under which Tri-State and its partners had agreed to upgrade pollution controls at Craig Station to reduce haze in national parks and wilderness areas. The 2 groups earlier had sued the EPA after it approved the state haze plan, required by federal law to reduce haze and improve views in such backcountry areas. Montrose County Commissioner Glenn Davis said he knows some coal plants need to be cleaned up, but he disputes the idea that haze will be reduced on the Front Range by getting rid of a plant in Montrose County that doesn't produce it. People such as State Representative Don Quorum and local Breck Richards, the trucking contractor, are concerned about Tri-State succumbing to legal pressure originating from environmental groups. U.S. Representative Scott Tipton, Republican of Cortez, worried in a news release following the announced deal about sue and settle tactics by these groups that show complete disregard for the families who rely on mining and power generation to put food on their tables, not to mention for the consumers who rely on that power.
According to the Durango Herald, the Colorado State Patrol is still trying to determine why a car rolled over and caught fire southeast of Denver, killing 5 people early Sunday. Trooper Tim Sutherland said no other vehicles were involved in the accident when the car went off the road and rolled several times. The State Patrol sent out a tweet calling it a horrible accident. Authorities could not immediately say if the accident involved adults or children and whether they were male or female. He said investigators had a hard time determining the make of the vehicle because the fire was devastating. It looks like excessive speed was a factor, he said. The accident happened about 6 a.m. east of Parker, which is about 25 miles southeast of Denver. The highway was closed for 7 hours while the investigation was conducted.
More GoldKing Mine Bonita Peak Superfund news as the conversation moves forward, according to the Durango Herald. Whether you support the Superfund program or not, colleagues agree the hazardous cleanup of mines surrounding Silverton could not be in more trusted hands than the EPA's Rebecca Thomas. Last month, the EPA formally listed 48 mining sites responsible for degrading water quality in the Animas River Basin as a Superfund site, with Thomas, based in Denver, as project manager for the Bonita Peak Mining District Superfund program. The announcement came just a year after the GoldKing Mine blowout, in which an EPA crew triggered a massive release of mine wastewater, reigniting the long-standing issue of metal loading into the watershed. Yet the blowout also reversed stubborn resistance from the small historic mining town of Silverton, home to a fluctuating population of about 600, not so keen on parting ways with its legacy of mining. It's a situation Thomas, throughout her career, has stepped into with ease, as evidenced by major projects in Libby, Montana, and Leadville. By the mid-1990s, tensions between the once thriving community of Leadville and the EPA surrounding the cleanup of 16 square miles of mining sites had escalated into a vitriolic, hostile environment. They came in and said, "We are the EPA and you will do this," said resident and environmental consultant Mike Conlin. One day, everyone that lived in the Superfund boundary got a brown paper envelope saying, "Congratulations, you're a potentially responsible party and may be responsible for the cost of cleanup." In Gillian Klukas' 2004 book detailing the bitter confrontation, called Leadville, The Struggle to Revive an American Town, effigies of EPA personnel were dragged through town, cars bore EPA Go to Hell bumper stickers, and one state senator even championed a public hanging. Relationships between the two entities had deteriorated so badly that EPA replaced its fledgling personnel with two new project managers, Mike Holmes and Thomas. That was very much the turning point, said Howard Tritz, an ex-miner and county assessor at the time. They were decent, they explained things to people, and they were not belligerent. Indeed, Klukas' book said local newspapers proclaimed a new era of cooperation in 1998 after the arrival of Holmes and Thomas, which eventually led to one of the most complicated but also successful cleanups in the EPA's history. The Arkansas River, for instance, once referred to as an industrial sewer, now boasts a gold medal fishery and is one of the most popular rivers to fish in the state of Colorado. Likewise, after 7 decades of vermiculite mining, the small town of Libby in the corner of northwestern Montana found itself subject to toxic asbestos, which health officials believed killed at least 400 residents and sickened thousands of others. Through 17 years of working together, residents have mostly accepted and, more importantly, understood the need for EPA's cleanup. Thomas Raines said had a large role in building that relationship. Now Thomas, 53, is entering her 24th year in the EPA's Superfund program and is turning her attention to the highly mineralized and complicated network of mines surrounding Silverton. Early on, town and county officials, as well as residents, demanded a seat at the table in EPA's decision-making process, even delaying a vote to pursue Superfund designation until that assurance was met. Already, it seems like EPA is living up to that promise. Thomas, for her part, said she was taken aback by the amount of investment from groups such as the Animas River Stakeholders Group, which has carried on nearly 2 decades of remediation projects in the basin. She said this winter, local, state, and federal agencies will review a swath of data taken over the past year and start to formulate a strategy to tackle what is one of the worst metal loading districts in the American West.
According to the Durango Herald, the Veterans Affairs Department turned over documents to Congress on Wednesday in response to a subpoena demanding information about how the cost of a Denver area VA hospital soared more than $1 billion over budget. The documents were on a CD submitted to the House Veterans Affairs Committee, but it wasn't immediately known whether they included everything the panel wanted, said Representative Mike Kaufman, Republican of Colorado, a member of the committee. A VA spokeswoman said the department had no immediate comment. The subpoena, issued 3 weeks ago, sought documents the VA had gathered during an internal investigation into why a hospital under construction in the Denver suburb of Aurora is projected to cost nearly $1.7 billion, almost triple the earlier estimates. The subpoena also sought documents related to millions of dollars spent on artwork and ornamental furnishings at VA offices nationwide, including more than $6.4 million spent on the Palo Alto, California healthcare system. Wednesday was the deadline for the VA to comply with the subpoena. Earlier in the day, Kaufman had said the department had failed to turn over any documents, but about 30 minutes later, he said the VA gave the committee the documents on CD shortly after 5 p.m. Washington time. Congress has repeatedly asked to see a detailed account of the Denver investigation, but the department had previously provided only a summary to the Veterans Affairs Committee. VA Deputy Secretary Sloan Gibson had said releasing details of the investigation would have a chilling effect on similar internal investigations in the future. Kaufman and others rejected that argument. A separate investigation by the VA's internal watchdog released last week said a former high-ranking VA official knew the hospital was veering toward huge cost overruns, but didn't tell Congress when he was called to testify about the price on 2 occasions. That prompted 21 members of the committee from both parties to formally ask the Justice Department to launch a perjury investigation. The department hasn't said whether it will.
Drugs and guns, 2 things that most believe shouldn't go together, other than in the Fast and Furious debacle, but I digress. In the U.S., controlled substance use means a person shouldn't own a gun. As reported in Westward.com, Monday's Marijuana Moment addresses this murky issue of medical marijuana registration and gun checks. Last month, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals found that the federal ban on gun sales to medical marijuana patients was constitutional. But since the court's jurisdiction doesn't include Colorado, local patients aren't affected, right? Not so fast, says marijuana attorney Rob Corey. When asked if the ruling could eventually lead to greater limitations on the ability of Colorado medical marijuana license holders to purchase firearms, Corey replies, yes, there is that danger. The 9th Circuit judgment notes that on September 21, 2011, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, better known as the ATF, issued an open letter to all federal firearm licensees. It states in part, any person who uses or is addicted to marijuana, regardless of whether his or her state has passed legislation authorizing marijuana use for medical purposes, is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance and is prohibited by federal law from possessing firearms or ammunition. Such persons should answer yes to question 11.e on ATF Form 4473, and you may not transfer firearms or ammunition to them. Further, if you are aware that the potential transferee is in possession of a card authorizing the possession and use of marijuana under state law, then you have reasonable cause to believe that the person is an unlawful user of a controlled substance. As such, you may not transfer firearms or ammunition to the person, even if the person answered no to question 11E on ATF Form 4473. Just under 2 weeks later, Nevada resident S. Rowan Wilson, who'd been issued a marijuana registry card the previous May, was refused the sale of a gun. She responded by filing an action against the federal government on October 18th. For the better part of 5 years, Wilson's complaint worked its way through the judicial system before winding up at the Court of Appeals, which weighed in against her by a 3-0 margin. The ruling pertains directly to the 9 states in the circuit: Nevada, Hawaii, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Arizona, and Montana. But Attorney Corey says, I would think that courts in Colorado would probably look to the 9th Circuit for guidance if a similar case is filed here. In Corey's view, this likelihood points out the continued absurdity of federal Schedule I prohibition on marijuana. Specifically, the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration lists cannabis as a Schedule I substance, meaning that it has no accepted medical use, even though the U.S. government owns a patent on a cannabis strain due to medical importance. Given that 25 states and the District of Columbia have legalized marijuana for such purposes, this determination strikes many observers as being woefully out of date, and the DEA has pledged to reconsider this situation. In August, however, the agency confirmed that no decision about marijuana scheduling will be made in 2016. Corey believes that rescheduling cannabis as a Schedule II substance with accepted medical use would be a big step in the right direction. However, he adds, I don't think it would resolve this issue. Federal law prohibits illegal drug users from using a firearm, so the question is, would Schedule II make it legal federally? His answer, it may under certain circumstances, and under other circumstances it might not. It would depend on how the state law was defined. At the same time, Corey stresses that federal law does apply in Colorado when it comes to firearms and marijuana. If you buy a gun and you tell the gun seller that you're a medical marijuana card holder, he won't sell you the gun. Moreover, anyone who purchases a gun has to answer a questionnaire, and one of the questions is, are you an illegal user of drugs? So technically, a medical marijuana patient who is using cannabis for medical purposes may have to answer that question yes. Such a person could also, I think, make a truthful argument that they're not an illegal user, he said, but it would be a difficult argument to make in light of the federal law.
One person And 2 horses in La Plata County have tested positive for the mosquito-borne West Nile virus, the San Juan Basin Health Department and Colorado State Veterinarian's Office announced, according to the Cortez Journal. Claire Nind, a spokeswoman for the health department, said a confirmed case of a human infected with West Nile virus occurred September 1st. She did not disclose the exact location of the infection, but said the individual recovered. In a Wednesday news release, the state veterinarian's office said throughout Colorado there also was 1 horse case in Adams County, 4 in Larimer County, 1 in Mesa County, 1 in Pueblo County, and 3 in Weld County. The state veterinarian's office did not respond to calls for comment Thursday. It is unclear of exact locations of confirmed cases in La Plata County and the condition of the affected animals. However, in the release, the office encouraged vaccinations for horses and suggested that owners reduce mosquito breeding grounds, such as stagnant water, and to keep animals inside during prime feeding times in the early morning and evening. Strict insect control is an important factor to inhibit the transmission of West Nile virus, State Veterinarian Keith Rower said in a prepared statement. An infected horse may experience stumbling, lack of coordination, muscle tremors, weakness of limbs, or partial paralysis. On August 9th, the health department reported 18 mosquitoes in Durango city limits tested positive for the virus out of 267 mosquitoes submitted to a lab. No further surveillance has occurred, Nin said. And now, here's our weather report.
The wind this morning sure has made the early part of the day a bit of extra work and a bit of, yep, feels like Monday, too true. Steady winds, mostly in the mid-20s with gusts to the mid-30s. The main body of this system is expected to arrive in Dolores County Broadcast Network area this afternoon. Surface winds this morning were to increase with the potential of gusts in excess of 45 miles an hour. On a line running from Moab, Utah to Craig, gusts were expected to reach from 45 to 60 miles per hour this morning. These winds are expected to ease off through the afternoon and shut down tonight, with clearing skies over the southern part of the state. The northern cloud cover will stay a little longer. There is a freeze watch for tonight that will be most likely where conditions are clear, but will also be very patchy over the state. Tomorrow will begin dry and be cool and breezy in the afternoon. Wednesday, pretty similar, with some light chance of moisture in the wait and see how much or for sure category. At this point, late in the week calls for a mild warming. That low putting rain on the Pacific coast from Washington halfway down the California coast will be moving in a northeasterly direction to the northern high plains by the middle of the week. A surface low to the east of that you see will spin up and deepen over eastern Montana and will drag a cold front through the northern and central plains. Rain levels of 1 to 3 inches are expected, and where this turns to snow in the mountains in those areas, snow may accumulate up to a foot deep by Wednesday morning. The higher terrain will likely get snow as temperatures cool down and the snow levels will steadily lower. The system will move into the Dakotas and Central Plains following. Strong to severe thunderstorms are forecast to start over Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska along and ahead of that front Tuesday afternoon. The Storm Prediction Center's website has more on the locations and severity of those storms. Some of these storms may also produce periods of heavy rainfall, which could increase the risk of flash flooding over northern Missouri and southern Iowa. The high pressure in the eastern half of the country will settle in, and the upper level low will continue to weaken as it moves from the Great Lakes region through to the northeast. Lingering rain will be possible today and tomorrow for portions of southern New England and the northern mid-Atlantic. Showers and thunderstorms will be over parts of the southeast through Tuesday. High temperatures over the next 5 days will be ranging from the upper 50s to the lower 60s for the work week, and lows are expected to be below freezing for that same period, but not much nighttime moisture, so dry tomato covers placed early each evening might extend your garden's life. Now back to the news.
Reported by the Dove Creek Press, 3 reported deaths of horses in the Dolores County area are believed to be directly related to horses eating leaves from Russian olive trees. 2 of the deaths were investigated by area veterinarians who consulted with the Colorado State University. The Russian olive trees have the presence of arsenic in its leaves. For some reason, there may be a higher sugar level in the leaves this year, which may be the reason the horses developed a taste for the leaves. The toxicity in the Russian olive trees causes serious kidney failure in horses. Death can result in a very short period of time. The kidney damage has a long-term effect. Sheriff Martin urges area horsemen who are pasturing in areas with Russian olive trees to keep a close watch on their horses for any signs of instability. His recommendation is to immediately contact a veterinarian to diagnose and monitor their condition if there is any indication their horse does not seem to be acting in a normal manner. Early signs may be a gaunt appearance in the flank, watery stool, and a lack of energy. For further information, contact your veterinarian.
Last week's CO2 average stands at 400.72 parts per million. Week before last at 400.87. 1 year ago at 397.25, and in 2006 it was 378.94. Ralph Keeling, with a bachelor's degree from Yale and a PhD from Harvard, is a professor at the principal investigator for the Atmospheric Oxygen Research Group at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. He is also their current program director. He says there's a pretty simple reason why recent stabilization in global emissions hasn't caused CO2 levels to stabilize. The ocean and land sinks for CO2 currently offset only about 50% of the emissions. So the equivalent of 50% of the emissions still accumulate in the atmosphere, even with stable emissions. To stabilize CO2 levels would require roughly an immediate 50% cut in emissions, at which point the remaining emissions would be fully offset by the sinks, at least for a while. Eventually, additional emissions cuts would be required, because the sinks will slowly lose their efficiency as the land and ocean start to saturate. A permanent stabilization at current levels, therefore, requires both an immediate 50% cut as well as a slow tapering thereafter, eventually approaching zero emissions. The recent stabilization in emissions might be viewed as a very small first step toward the required cuts.
According to the Cortez Journal, the Montezuma Orchard Restoration Project has been awarded a $42,400 planning grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to jumpstart the local apple market. MORP has been working to restore the once vibrant fruit market in southwest Colorado. They believe there is a strong emerging market for local apples, especially in the burgeoning hard cider industry, says MORP Director Nina Williams. The purpose of the grant is to evaluate the feasibility of a mobile cider press in area orchards, she said. Pressing juice in an orchard saves the transportation costs of delivering it to a processing facility. In pilot project this month, Northwest Mobile Juicing of Montana will set up its portable pressing plant at a local orchard and press 800 bushels of apples, enough to make 2,200 gallons of juice. The mobile commercial-grade juicer includes an apple press, pasteurizer, and bag-in-box packager. If the trial apple press run is a success, the next hurdle would be to pass state and federal regulations for retail and wholesale distribution of packaged apple juice. Then, if deemed feasible, MORP will prepare a business plan to acquire and operate a mobile pressing plant. The mobile units cost about $120,000, not including the truck and generator.
And speaking of apples, the 9th annual Apple Days Festival was held on Sunday at Buckley Park in Durango. According to the Durango Herald, it's been a great year for fruit yields in southwest Colorado, evidenced by the nearly 4,000 pounds of apples on display at that event. It's been a very plentiful year, said Growing Partners Project Executive Director Joni Podshun, and our region has produced so many apples and we didn't want them to rot. Instead, volunteers organized by the Growing Partners Project set out last week to gather as many apples and other fruits from homeowners around Durango. As a result, more than 4,000 pounds of apples were used Sunday to make apple juice and other treats. Throughout the day, children of all ages set to work at the churning machine, making apple juice on the spot. The Apple Days Festival, nearing its one-decade mark, began as an early initiative of the Growing Partners Project, which, since 2004, has been promoting the use of local sustainable food sources. Events such as Apple Days serve to use produce that's grown right here in Durango, Podchun said, that would otherwise be unused. And local fruit gleaning efforts, like the program promoted through Bear Smart, support the effort. Even local growers felt the benefits of a good growing year, avoiding early spring frosts, a wet summer, and an early cool fall with some early frosts. Plants around the region thrived. It was probably one of the best years we've had in a decade, said Max Fields of Fields to Plate Produce. The orchard looked like a golf course with apples everywhere on it. Fields, standing beside an appetizing array of beets, carrots, and other root-based vegetables, was also helping Carnes Orchard, located in Hermosa, sell a variety of apples. Fields said the apples gained the interest of the Montezuma Orchard Restoration Project, which set out to determine the species of apples grown at the Hermosa Orchard. The day was also filled with other family-friendly fun events, including music from the band's Stillwater Music and an apple pie eating contest.
Now, as you all probably know, homecoming was last week for the Dove Creek Bulldogs, and it was a busy week for some, if not all, of the students. Students spent most of the week working on their class floats, from what I've been told. There were class floats ranging from the Little Runts float all the way to the seniors float. There were even kids from the marching band marching down the street, as well as others carrying the U.S. and Colorado flags behind the VFW Jeep and tossing candy for the spectators. One of the floats I saw had the words "Old Glory, what every American should stand for," written on the side, and a "Skin the Bears" sign on the back. The week also featured special dress-up days. For everyone excluding the freshmen, Monday was Twin Day, Tuesday was Class Color Day. For 6th grade, the color was black, 7th grade was orange, 8th grade was red, 10th grade yellow, 11th grade blue, 12th grade purple, and the staff was green. Wednesday was America Day, Thursday was Blue and Gold Day. For the freshmen, Monday was Nerd Day, Tuesday was Baby Day, Wednesday was Dress Like Your Senior Day, and Thursday was Senior Choice Day. Now for the homecoming games on Friday. The football team sadly lost to Netherlands 42-0, but the volleyball girls really skinned the Bears and won in 5 rounds. Good job, girls, and better luck next time, boys. Saturday night was the homecoming dance, and we've heard it was a great event with the usual excitement, and everyone safely made it through another fall tradition.
For today's high country happenings, if you love to run in the fall, it's that time again. The Newspaper Rock 10K will begin at the Newspaper Rock parking lot along U.S. Highway 211 in Utah. The race will begin at 9 a.m. on Saturday, October 8th. Registration will start at 8 a.m. The race will end at the Dugout Ranch, 6.2 miles from the starting point. There will be a shuttle to take runners back to the starting parking lot. Runners may also arrange their own shuttles if they wish. Registration is $40 and includes a t-shirt, raffle ticket, post-race refreshments, and a ton of fun. This is put on in association with the Four Corners School of Outdoor Education in Monticello. For more details, you can visit their website, fourcornerschool.org, call 800-525-4456, or visit their Facebook page. The Four Corners Film Office and Mesa Verde Country are hosting an industry mixer in Cortez on October 21st at Stonefish Sushi and More. From 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., join them for free appetizers and to find out how they can help promote Montezuma, you, and your business. For more details, call 970-749-1875 or visit their website, fourcornersfilmoffice.org, or on Facebook. Montezuma County Commissioners will be holding a town hall meeting on Monday, October 3rd, tonight at 7 p.m. at the Dolores Town Hall. Members of the public are welcome to attend and ask questions about county projects, comment on community issues, and express concerns or gratitude. These meetings will not be decision-making meetings. This is the second quarterly town hall meeting initiated by the Commission to reach out to community members who may not be able to make the regularly scheduled daytime meetings held every Monday. This is a great idea, and maybe it will catch on with other communities. And just a reminder that the DC High School will be holding a candidates forum Q&A on October 13th at 7 p.m. at the gymnasium a week from Thursday. DCTV will hope to cover the event. The school hopes that it will bring attention to the 2 commissioner seats that are up for election and offer you a chance to talk to the candidates. All of the happenings are posted up on our DCTV News at Noon Facebook page, along with the embedded YouTube replays of the live show and the exclusive DCTV 5-day forecast. If you have an event, you can email us at dcbnnews@gmail.com or call us at the station at 677-411-9 and we'll be sure to get it on air.
Thanks for tuning in. A reminder that this program is aired live at noon Monday through Wednesday, then rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. and again aired Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the same order at noon, 2:30, and 8 p.m. each day respectively.
And again, check us out on Facebook. We'd love for you to like us there and spread the word.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and everyone at DCTV with the News at Noon program out of Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.